Mid-Autumn Festival. Liu Ryan finally agreed to go on a trip with me. But when I woke up in the hotel, she had vanished without a trace. I spent the whole day frantically searching for her, only to accidentally come across a post on her ex's social media. The photo showed him and Liu Ryan having a reunion dinner with his parents, with the caption, "Finally met the parents on reunion night. No more pressure from the folks about getting married." Around his neck. He was wearing the scarf my mother had knitted for me before she passed away. I commented under the post, "Stop wearing my stuff to woo my wife. Take it off. The girl I can let go." But not that. Soon after, her ex posted another update. The scarf was torn to shreds and thrown into a dog's kennel, with the caption, "What kind of junk is this? Even the dog won't touch it." Not long after, Liu Ryan liked the post. She messaged me. "See, Yuan's family has been pressuring him. He had no choice but to ask me to pretend to be his girlfriend for the Mid-Autumn Festival. We're just faking it to get through this holiday. That's all. It's not like we're actually dating." But you had to make that sarcastic comment under his post. Not long after I commented, Liu Ryan called me, trying to explain why she had left me behind at the hotel. But I couldn't calm down at all. "I'm not joking with you. You let someone else wear something my mother left me. There's no way we can continue after this." On the other end of the line, I heard Jung Seo-on's voice, full of frustration. "Bro, it was my fault." Jung Seo-on said, "I'll replace the scarf for you. Please don't fight with Ryan over this." All along, whenever Jung Seo-on acted pitiful, Liu Ryan would drop everything and side with him. And sure enough, her tone grew impatient. Chen, it's just a stupid scarf. You've been going on and on about it. Haven't you had enough? You've ruined the Mid-Autumn Festival for everyone. And now no one's happy. Are you satisfied? I'm not coming back. You can sit and think about it yourself," she said before hanging up the phone. I sent a message, only to find that I'd been blocked. The veins in my hand bulged with anger. In this strange city, surrounded by the glow of festive lights and fireworks, I stood alone in the dark hotel room, slamming my fist into the wall, my knuckles covered in blood. I regretted it so much. Bringing the scarf my mother had knitted for me on this trip. I can still remember her frail hands, carefully knitting the wool, her sunken face smiling gently as she said, "Try on this scarf Mom made. When it gets cold, wear it, and I'll be at peace." There's no scarf in the world warmer than the one my mother made. But now it had been torn to pieces, thrown into a dog's kennel, soiled with dog waste. I didn't stay another moment. I went straight home. 2 days later, Liu Ryan finally came back. I was sitting on the couch when a brand new scarf with the tag still attached was thrown at my head. She smiled carelessly. "Here, see, Yuan bought this for you. It cost him quite a bit." I looked at the roughly stitched scarf and, without expression, tossed it into the trash. The one my mom knitted for me can't be replaced by this garbage. Liu Ryan glanced at the scarf in the trash, frowning slightly. She sat down beside me. "I know, but the dead can't come back to life. What's in the past should stay in the past. See, Yuan didn't mean to do it. You're the one who provoked him first. All right, let's stop being angry now." As she spoke, she tried to wrap her arm around mine like she usually did. I pulled away. Her hand hung awkwardly in the air, then slowly retracted. After a brief pause, she glanced at the bowl in front of me. "Didn't you prepare one for me?" I looked down and took another sip. "Are you out of your mind? If you didn't want to eat at Jung Seo-on's place, why did you insist on coming back here to eat?" "Chen, what are you even talking about?" She tried to cozy up to me. "We're family, remember?" I put down my bowl. "Let's get a divorce." Liu Ryan froze for a moment. "What did you say?" I pulled out the divorce papers I had prepared long ago and handed them to her. "Take a look. We can discuss anything you disagree with." She pushed the papers away. not even glancing at them. Why? She bent down and picked up the scarf from the trash. Don't tell me it's just because of this. It's because of this. She bit her lip, angrily throwing the scarf back into the trash. Standing up, she started pacing back and forth. How many times do I have to tell you? I'm only pretending with him. See, Yuan's mother has a heart condition, and her biggest wish is to see him settle down while she's still alive. Why don't you understand? She snapped. You keep doubting this, doubting that. And besides, we're married. How could I betray you? What more do you want? You've already betrayed me. I stared at her coldly. Betrayal isn't just about sleeping in someone else's bed. The moment you left me alone at that hotel without a word, we were done, and you gave him my mother's scarf. You knew it would hurt me, but you did it anyway. You're overthinking it again, she said. If you hadn't started imagining things, I wouldn't have left so suddenly. It was cold where Yuan was, so I just grabbed his scarf. What's wrong with that? And what about after this? She hesitated. What do you mean? I let out a bitter, sarcastic laugh. Yuan's mother isn't dead yet. Her wish is to see her son get married, not just to have him bring a girlfriend home to meet the family. Chen, she shouted, her voice sharp. I won't let you curse his mother like that. I laughed, the bitterness spreading to my lips. My mother is gone, but I have to tiptoe around Yuan's mother. I shook my head. Pushing the divorce papers towards her, I said, sign it. She bit her lip. Are you serious? Yes. I picked up my bowl, only to have it snatched from my hand and hurled against the wall. It shattered into pieces, the soup spilling everywhere. She glared at me. We're divorcing, so why are you still eating? With that, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her with a deafening bang. I stood up. Ryan, suddenly everything went dark. I hurriedly grabbed onto the table for support, but pressed down too hard on the edge. The table flipped over, crashing down with a loud thud. I fell hard onto the floor. A glass slipped and shattered, some of the shards cutting into my body. Pain shot through my forehead. I struggled to lift my head, my vision blurry. It seemed like the door had opened. Ryan's figure quickly approached. Chen. It hurt. Cold sweat broke out on my back. My whole body trembled at the effort of saying just one word. Ryan had completely forgotten our fight. Without hesitation, she lifted me up. Don't worry, I'll take you to the hospital right away. But just as she said that, her phone rang at the worst possible moment. The caller ID showed. Yuan. She held me with one arm, while answering the call with the other. Her voice slightly irritated. What do you want? Yuan's tone was a bit hurt. Ryan, you just left like that? You didn't even stay for dinner. I really miss you right now. She didn't hesitate, quickly ending the call. She carefully supported me again, but the phone rang once more. And Ryan sighed. I'm in an emergency. Ryan. Yuan's voice was filled with disappointment. I could feel Ryan stiffen. You never used to treat me like this. Whenever I said I missed you, you'd drop everything to come see me right away. Now that you're married, you've changed, haven't you? I couldn't take it anymore. I snatched the phone from her, clenching my teeth through the pain. If you dare call again, I'll make sure you don't know how you ended up dead. I hung up the phone and hurled it against the wall, shattering the screen into pieces. I glared at Ryan, my teeth clenched. Can you take me to the hospital now? She froze for a moment, then nodded. As we crossed the threshold, the broken phone on the floor lit up. Beneath the shattered screen was a message. If this is your choice, then all I can do is wish you well. From now on, we go our separate ways, never crossing paths again. My body went weak, and I collapsed to the floor. Ryan let go of me, picked up the phone, and ran out quickly, not even looking back. I used all my strength to call her name, but her steps only quickened. The pain in my head throbbed violently, the world spinning around me. Her silhouette in the center of my vision grew smaller and smaller, till it vanished completely. Everything went black, and I lost consciousness. It was an old injury flaring up again. When I first started dating Liu Ryan, I took a beer bottle to the head while defending her from a group of thugs. The shards embedded deep into my skull. Ever since then, I've had recurring headaches. Sometimes the pain is so intense it knocks me out. A neighbor found me unconscious and immediately rushed me to the hospital. When I woke up at the hospital, I heard the doctor speaking. I was still a bit dazed, trying to process what he was saying. It's stress-induced, he said. Have you been going through something lately? Sir, are you listening? The nurse's voice felt distant, like it was coming from the clouds. I closed my eyes, swallowing down my pain. Suddenly, I remembered the night Liu Ryan and I got married. She cried, curled up in my arms. I'll take good care of you, she had said. You got hurt because of me. I'll make sure you never suffer from your illness again. But after we got married, she repeatedly used Jung Seo-on to provoke me, leaving me in so much pain I could barely work. My phone vibrated. Jung Seo-on had posted something on his social media. In the photo, Liu Ryan was sleeping on his bed, fully clothed. The caption read, "I knew you wouldn't really leave me." His free hand rested lightly on her chest. A wedding ring clearly too large for his pinky finger. I recognized it immediately. It was the wedding ring that belonged to Liu Ryan and me. I clicked like on the post. Then I commented, "How pitiful having to sneak her ring off while she's asleep. Since you like picking up trash, I'll just give it to you." Just as I posted the comment, my father-in-law called. "Chen, did you and Ryan return from your trip? Come home tonight. Let's have a belated reunion dinner." My mother-in-law chimed in. "Yes, we've made ribs for you too. Why aren't you saying anything? Haven't you come back yet?" I gripped my phone tightly, finally making up my mind. "Dad, Mom, I'm planning to get a divorce." After saying that, I sent them everything that had happened over the past few days, along with screenshots of all of Jung Seo-on's posts. As soon as they got the news, my parents rushed to the hospital. They took care of me, buying expensive supplements to help me recover. Even though Liu Ryan would leave me behind from time to time, but they still treated me like their own son. However, I refused my mother-in-law's attempts to convince me otherwise. "Mom, I can't pretend like nothing happened and go on living with her anymore. Once my headaches are better, I'm filing for divorce." That afternoon, my parents didn't come back to the hospital. I didn't ask why. Instead, I contacted a lawyer to discuss the next steps. But later that evening, Liu Ryan returned. I was sitting on the bed reading a book, when suddenly a strong force knocked it out of my hands. Her face was full of anger. "What did you say to my parents?" she demanded. "Why did they go to find Seo-on at his workplace?" I was stunned. So that's where my parents had gone this afternoon, to confront Jung Seo-on? It was only then that I noticed someone standing at the door. Jung Seo-on, his eyes red, stared at me. "Bro, I know I've been out of line sometimes, but you shouldn't stir things up with Ryan's parents. They're old and it's hard for them to handle stress over baseless accusations. It doesn't feel right seeing them get upset." As always, whenever Jung Seo-on looked hurt, Liu Ryan would lose control. She grabbed my arm. "Do you know Seo-on had an important client meeting today? Because of your baseless suspicions, his deal fell through. You even dragged my parents into this. Now come on, apologize to him." She yanked at me roughly, and I almost fell to the floor. "Stop pretending. I know you're not really sick." Without giving me a chance to explain, she gripped me even tighter. "Even if you really are sick, you still owe him an apology." Suddenly, my head started throbbing again, and I almost collapsed to my knees. But Liu Ryan, still furious, kept dragging me toward Jung Seo-on. I desperately grabbed onto the table, knocking over my medical records. I snatched them up and slammed them against Liu Ryan's chest. If I'm supposed to apologize to Jung Si-won, then what do you think is causing my headaches? Her arm froze. What are you saying? Is your head hurting again? I steadied myself against the table, pointing to the paper in her hand. The doctor said, I could have been cured. But you kept abandoning me over and over for him. I wouldn't have had to endure this for so long. Liu Ryan stood there in shock, the anger draining from her face. Bro, this is just too obvious. Jung Si-won snatched the paper from her hand, glanced at it quickly, and immediately tore it into pieces. Don't go too far. Stirring things up with her parents was bad enough. Stop manipulating Ryan. Liu Ryan hesitated. Is the paper fake? Jung Si-won with full confidence. Of course. At first glance, it looks like it's from a hospital, but my department sometimes makes props for film sets. This is an obvious forgery. He looked at me. Bro, there are some things you just can't joke about. Ryan has always felt guilty because you got hurt protecting her. But she's your wife. You can't use that to hold something over her forever, can you? And you're faking it all. I punched him square in the face. Jung Si-won cried out in pain and stumbled back. Liu Ryan quickly pushed me away. Are you crazy? I gritted my teeth, glaring at her. Am I faking it? You can go ask the nurse. I raised my fist again, ready to swing at Jung Si-won. Oh, Ryan. Enough, she shouted. Suddenly, my head throbbed violently. A sharp slap landed hard on my ear, and a deafening ringing exploded in my head. The pain was so intense I doubled over onto the bed. Liu Ryan stood over me, fists clenched. If it were real, this slap would have knocked you out cold. But you're still conscious, so stop pretending. If you keep this nonsense up, we're getting a divorce. Without caring about the sweat pouring down my forehead from the pain, she grabbed Jung Si-won, turned around, and left. I struggled to crawl toward the bedhead and pressed the call button. The nurses rushed in, checking me quickly, then immediately called for an emergency team. Hurry! Prep for emergency transport. The patient shows signs of brain hemorrhage. I lay there on the bed, my vision blurring. As the sound of the medical team's voices echoed around me, I closed my eyes. When I opened them again, my parents were standing by my bedside. My father-in-law was trying to comfort his sobbing wife, avoiding eye contact with me. Chen, my mother-in-law seemed like she wanted to say something. I shook my head. I want a divorce. Her hand, outstretched toward me, froze midair. She glanced at her husband. Both of them sighed deeply. All right, let's divorce. We're sorry for what happened. We won't go after that Jung guy. You wouldn't have ended up like this if it weren't for that ungrateful daughter. I forced a weak smile. No, this has nothing to do with you. Even if they hadn't confronted Jung Si-won, something like this would have happened anyway. There's no avoiding it. Whenever Jung Si-won feels slighted, Liu Ryan panics. My phone buzzed. I picked it up. It was another post from Jung Si-won. It was a photo of a pregnancy checkup slip. The caption read, "We've made it." In the corner of the photo, Liu Ryan's hand, still wearing our wedding ring, was visible, and the first person to like the post was her. Seeing me silent, my mother-in-law took my phone, and when she saw the post, both she and my father-in-law's faces darkened. She handed the phone back to me, patting my hand gently. Divorce her. It's better for both you and her. As for the assets, we'll try to compensate you. My eyes welled up. She paused. What's wrong? I sighed. Nothing. If it weren't for her, I really would have wanted to call you to mom and dad for the rest of my life. The room fell into silence. My mother-in-law turned away, wiping her eyes with a tissue. We all knew it was no longer possible. After 2 days of rest, I was finally able to get out of bed. But as soon as my feet touched the floor, The door was shoved open by a familiar figure. Liu Ryan stormed in, slapping me hard across the face. What did you say to my parents this time? Half my face burned from the slap. And I stumbled back, catching myself on the table. What are you talking about? Her lips curled into a mocking sneer. Stop pretending. You're the one who sent my parents after Yuan, aren't you? He was cornered at work because of you, right? What? I was stunned, not expecting my parents to have intervened again. Liu Ryan stepped closer. With the way they acted, it's obvious they were influenced by someone. Yuan is in bad shape now. He's been completely distracted by this every day. I'm telling you, if anything happens to him, I won't let you off. With that, she grabbed my wrist forcefully. Get on your knees and apologize to him. Impossible. But she yanked me hard, and with my body still weak from recovery, I stumbled and fell to the floor. The freshly stitched wound seemed to tear open. I was in excruciating pain. Liu Ryan, let go of me. My wound has reopened, but she didn't release her grip at all. Stop faking it. Do you really think it's funny to keep doing this? So you saved my life once, but now you fake being sick every day to get sympathy. Aren't you tired of it? Because I'm sick of it. And you think this will get you out of apologizing? I'm telling you, even if you die today, you're going to apologize to him first. She dragged me toward the door. I could feel the raw pain of my skin and flesh tearing apart as she pulled. The agony was unbearable, and I was on the verge of passing out. I opened my mouth to cry for help, but the pain left me trembling, unable to utter a word. Suddenly, the door swung open. Liu Ryan's nose slammed into the door unexpectedly, making her stagger back a few steps, forcing her to release me. My mother-in-law's shocked voice echoed through the room. Chen, what happened to you? Behind me, a long trail of blood stretched across the floor. Liu Ryan's pupils suddenly constricted. Smack! A sharp slap landed on her face. My father-in-law, furious, shouted, How can you treat your own husband like this? No wonder Chen is determined to divorce you. My mother-in-law helped me up, crying as she yelled, Chen just had surgery. And you still slapped him. Isn't that enough for you? Is that pretty boy really worth more than your husband's life? How did your father and I raise such a coward? Blood trickled from Liu Ryan's nose. She wiped it away. Dad, Mom, don't be fooled by him. He's always pretending to be sick. Do you really believe everything he says? Shut your mouth. My father-in-law was seething with anger. It looks to me like the one who believes everything is you. With that, he threw my medical records at her. Liu Ryan still didn't believe it. Her brows furrowed. Dad, Mom, don't let him manipulate you. But her words stopped dead when she saw the surgery report. Panicked, she flipped through the medical records. This can't be true. It has to be fake. Smack! Another slap from my father-in-law sent her tumbling to the floor. You believe every word that pretty boy says, but when it comes to your husband, you're suspicious of everything. I think the one full of suspicion here is you, my father-in-law said, shaking his head. The nurses rushed in to treat my wounds. Staring at the blood-stained white sheets, Liu Ryan clutched the medical records tightly in her hands. The wound was treated in time, so the damage wasn't too severe. Liu Ryan, her eyes red, sat down beside my bed, grasping my hand. Chen, why are your hands so cold? She lowered her head, bringing my hand to her lips, trying to warm it with her body heat. I didn't have much strength, but I mustered enough to slowly pull my hand away from hers. My voice was weak. Let's get a divorce. Chen, her voice trembled. I was just joking with you. That pregnancy test, it was fake. I just saw you getting jealous for no reason, so I wanted to tease you, to provoke you. I let out a bitter laugh. So you've always thought my jealousy was baseless? I passed out from pain, needed you to take me to the hospital, had surgery, and even asked for a divorce. Do you really see all of that as just me vying for attention? She choked on her words, and by then I had already forced myself to sit up. My mother hurried over, placing a pillow behind my back for support. I leaned my head against the wall, trying to steady my thoughts. Liu Ryan, I'm not Jung Soo-won. Your love means nothing to me. Her fists clenched tightly, but I turned my head away, refusing to look at her. Dad, Mom, I don't want to be in the same room with her. My mother-in-law bit her lip, but eventually made up her mind. With a sharp slap to Liu Ryan's face, she shouted, "Get out! What are you still doing here?" She looked panicked. "Chen, please let me stay and take care of you. Don't push me away. I'm begging you." I closed my eyes, letting my parents usher her out of the hospital room. After she was gone, I pulled out the divorce agreement and handed it to my parents. "This is what I worked out with the lawyer. Take a look. If there's anything you think isn't right, we can discuss it." My mother-in-law pushed the agreement back toward me, her expression not very pleasant. "It's fine. Whatever amount you ask for, we'll give it. It's our family that wronged you." Tears immediately welled up in my eyes. Even though I married the wrong person, I have to say, all these years, you two have never treated me unfairly. Even after my mother passed away, you still knitted me a scarf every year. I choked back my tears. "I'll come back to visit you both." My mother-in-law bowed her head, crying uncontrollably. After I was discharged from the hospital, I moved out. I sent the divorce papers to Liu Ryan. "Sign if you agree. If not, I'll see you in court." She sent me a message. "Is there really no chance of reconciliation?" I replied with one word, "Yes." Then I added, "I'll give you a week to think about it." A week later, I was at work, but the first person to respond wasn't Liu Ryan. Jung Soo-won somehow found out where I worked. He barged into the lobby, falling to his knees in front of me. "Brother Chen, I'm begging you, please give her back to me. We already have a child together. Please, I'm begging you, let me and her live a normal life. Don't keep her tied to you anymore. Can you do that?" People were walking in and out of the lobby, but hearing his words, many stopped to watch. Jung Soo-won looked up, his eyes red as he stared at me. His words were ambiguous, and the onlookers, without context, immediately assumed he was the rightful partner. No way! This is the real deal coming to confront Chen Chen? Chen Chen's been acting as the other guy in someone else's relationship? Oh my god, you really can't judge a book by its cover. He seemed like such a decent guy. But to do something like this, TSK, I raised an eyebrow. "She's pregnant?" He nodded. "That pregnancy test. It wasn't fake." A wave of disgust washed over me. Though Liu Ryan and I were no longer connected, just thinking about it made me feel sick. I pulled out my phone and called Liu Ryan. She picked up almost immediately. "Chen, have you changed your mind? Are we not divorcing? Come pick up the father of your child." I said coldly. There was a brief pause. "Father of my child? What are you talking about? Whether that pregnancy test was real or fake, don't you?" Silence followed on the other end. Hello, I said twice, but she hung up. Not long after, Liu Ryan's car pulled up outside the office building. She walked straight over, helping Jung Soo-won up from the ground, not even sparing me a glance. "Liu Ryan," I called out as she was about to leave. She turned her head. I said coldly, "Now everyone thinks I'm the third party here. Aren't you going to say something?" She froze for a moment, finally noticing that everyone in the lobby was watching the scene unfold. She then turned toward Jung Soo-won. He immediately tried to explain. "Ryan, I never said anything like that. I don't know how these people got the wrong idea." "Really?" I laughed. "If you hadn't been so ambiguous, how could people have misunderstood? You came all the way to my workplace, the company of the actual spouse, to confront me. How is it that you don't have the guts to admit you're the third party here? Chen, Liu Ryan frowned. I don't have time to argue with you about this. With that, she turned and left with Jung Siyuan. The people in the lobby, who had been stunned by my words, began whispering again. It seems like Chen really is the third party. Why else wouldn't that woman defend him? Breaking up someone's family. And he looks so proper too. But underneath, he's rotten, now that I think about it. Doesn't that real spouse look familiar? I heard he got fired from a partner company recently, supposedly for breaking up someone else's family. Really? Isn't he the one who was wronged? Or does he have someone on the side too? I ignored the gossip. But after waiting a while, I noticed that Liu Ryan's car still hadn't left. In the car, Jung Siyuan was saying something with a pitiful expression, but she seemed to be losing her patience. Didn't I tell you the pregnancy test was just an act? Why did you have to turn it into something real? Jung Siyuan's eyes turned red with frustration. It's because you haven't paid any attention to me for a week. I had no choice but to use this method to force you out. You don't understand. Chen wants to divorce me. Jung Siyuan froze, then leaned closer. Fine, let him divorce you. I'll marry you instead. My parents are thrilled with you. We can get married and have kids right away. It'll be way better than with Chen. Enough! Liu Ryan shouted at him, something she rarely did. Jung Siyuan stood frozen in shock, his eyes turning red. Ryan, you never treated me like this before. Are you done? Liu Ryan didn't even look at him. You're just a third wheel. Ryan. Jung Siyuan was stunned. Get out of the car, Liu Ryan said, turning her head toward me. I still need to make up with my husband. Ryan, get out. Her tone was cold. Let's not make this uglier than it already is. Jung Siyuan slammed the door shut as he left, not forgetting to throw me a glare. I got into the passenger seat. Liu Ryan looked at me with a hint of appeasement. You heard everything? Yeah. Chen, can we not get divorced? No. She froze. Chen, I really didn't have any other intentions. The pregnancy was fake. You heard it yourself. So what? I interrupted her. You didn't even have the guts to clear up the misunderstanding in front of everyone. And instead, you left with him. Is that how a wife is supposed to act? No, Chen. It's because of what happened with my parents. He's already lost his job, Liu Ryan said earnestly. He's struggling alone in the big city. If I had clarified your identity just now, then wouldn't that make him officially the third party? How would he ever live with that? Isn't he exactly that? I interrupted her again. She stood there speechless. I laughed, full of sarcasm. I don't get it. What is there to clean up? Every time you claim you don't want a divorce, but when it really matters, you're always trying to play both sides. No, Chen. Siyuan is just immature. It's not what you think. I don't care what he's like. Impatient, I threw the divorce papers into her lap again. Last day. If you don't sign, we'll meet in court. With that, I opened the car door and left without looking back. Liu Ryan didn't want to cement Jung Siyuan's status as the third party, but I made sure of it, back at the office. I played the recording of our conversation in the car for everyone to hear. I knew it. Brother Chen didn't seem like that kind of guy. How does a third party have the audacity to confront the real spouse? Ridiculous. That woman acts like she's so deep in love. But she didn't even dare acknowledge her husband in public. And then she has the nerve to justify herself in front of her own husband for the guy outside. Wow, she really knows how to endure humiliation. Huh. Jung Siyuan had no chance of recovering this time. Someone shared the recording online, along with the video of him kneeling at my feet that day. He instantly became a local celebrity. Every resume he sent out ended up in the trash. When his parents found out that the girlfriend he brought home was a married woman, They were so furious that they ended up hospitalized. He came to my office again, begging me to let him off the hook. But I couldn't do anything to help. This is your mess. I can't cover for you. And besides, everyone's talking about it. It's not something you can just fix by asking me, with no other options. He turned to Liu Ryan for help. But Liu Ryan, who had always stood by him, coldly told him, "Get lost. If it weren't for you, I could have had a happy family." I found it amusing. Liu Ryan, are people like you always so good at shifting blame? If you hadn't been unfaithful, would Zheng Xiuan have ever had a chance? Did the Shang dynasty fall only because of Daji? Was our marriage ruined solely because of Zheng Xiuan? She began to cry. Chen, I know I was wrong. Is that so? I smiled. Who told you that admitting your mistake could undo everything? She clutched the divorce papers tightly, her grip so strong that the paper tore. In the end, Liu Ryan signed the divorce papers. She was supposed to leave without taking anything. But I decided on a 70-30 split of the assets. 70% for me, 30% for her. I planned to set aside the money for my parents' retirement. On the day of the divorce, I didn't take much. One of the items was a scarf knitted by my mother-in-law, and another was an umbrella my father-in-law bought for me. That day, it began to drizzle. I opened the umbrella and wrapped the scarf around my neck. The warmth this family had given me was all I carried with me, worn on my body. From that day on, other than occasional visits to my parents, the life I had with Liu Ryan was gone forever.